Have you ever noticed how the people who walk away from you never even look back? There's no hesitation in their steps, no trembling in their hands, no turning of the head, just silence. A silence that hits harder than the goodbye itself. And yet, you're the one who stays rooted in the same place, trying to understand what went wrong. You replay every conversation, every moment, every detail, hoping to find the one thing you could have said or done differently. But deep down, you feel something heavier than rejection, something Osho spoke about often, the illusion that someone else's departure means your unworthiness. But what if no one ever taught you the deeper truth? What if rejection is not a wound, but a form of spiritual redirection? What if people don't leave you because you lack something, but because their journey has simply reached its natural ending in your story? This is the part nobody tells you. This is the part your mind resists and your heart refuses to accept. But Osho would say, when someone leaves, do not chase. The one who walks away is not part of your path. They are part of your awakening. Think about it. How many times have you begged life to give you back what it already removed? How many times have you tried to keep someone close, even when their presence was already turning into emotional poison? We've all done it. Because attachment blinds, because the fear of loneliness blurs our intuition, because the pain of rejection convinces us that something is wrong with us. But there is something sacred hidden under that pain, inner freedom, a liberation you can't feel yet because you're still holding the door open for someone who already chose to walk away. Maybe they left quietly, maybe they left abruptly, maybe they left blaming you for things you didn't even do, or maybe they simply disappeared without a single explanation. But the common thread is this: they left because they were never meant to stay. Loss is not punishment, rejection is not failure, and someone leaving you is not evidence of your not enough. It's life gently saying, this chapter is complete, let's move on. But we resist, we analyze, we cling to old memories, old conversations, old stories, hoping to resurrect what is already spiritually dead. You see, your mind wants answers, your ego wants closure, but your soul just wants peace. And peace comes the moment you stop asking, why did they leave me? And begin asking, why am I still holding on? This journey is not about blame, it's about awakening. It's about emotional healing, self worth, spiritual clarity, and the deep understanding that someone walking away is not the end. It's the beginning of your inner expansion. Osho explained that when someone leaves, you should bow your head in gratitude, not because the loss doesn't hurt, but because life just removed what would have limited your consciousness later. You don't see it yet, but you will, when the ache softens, when the noise fades, when your breath returns, when you finally understand that letting go isn't losing, it's choosing yourself. And the truth is, you've needed this moment, a moment to look at your patterns, your attachment wounds, your craving for validation, your tendency to fight for people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. This pain is not here to destroy you, it's here to wake you up. So stay with me, because now we go deeper into what rejection really means, what loss reveals, and why letting people walk away is one of the most powerful acts of inner freedom you will ever experience. But before we continue, if this opening already touched something inside you, if you felt seen, understood, or mirrored, leave a like, subscribe, and comment below. I choose inner freedom. Let these words anchor your intention. Now respire slowly. We are about to enter the real truth behind why people leave and why that might be the greatest blessing of your spiritual journey. There's a silent moment that happens right after someone walks away from your life. It's not the sound of the door closing, it's not the echo of their last words, it's the emptiness that suddenly fills the air, a strange invisible weight that lands on your chest before you even understand what has happened. Osho once said that pain does not come from the event, but from our resistance to the event. And rejection is the perfect example of this truth. The real wound isn't the departure itself, it's everything that the departure awakens inside you. Because when someone leaves, it doesn't just feel like they walked away, it feels like they took pieces of you with them, the pieces you had quietly woven into, the way you saw yourself, the way you hoped, the way you loved. And suddenly you are forced to face an uncomfortable truth. You were building parts of your identity around someone who was never yours to keep. Rejection isn't just emotional pain, it's a collision between your attachment and their freedom. And in that collision, your ego takes the hardest hit. Not because the person was perfect, not because the relationship was irreplaceable, but because their leaving disrupts a silent story you were writing in your mind. A story where they stayed, a story where things got better, a story where you were chosen. So when they walk away, the story collapses, and the mind, desperate for meaning, whispers its favorite lie. If they left, it must be because I wasn't enough. This is the illusion Osho warned about, the illusion that turns loss into self-blame. You start questioning your worth, your beauty, your kindness, your effort, as if love were an exam you failed. But rejection has nothing to do with your worth. It never did. People leave for reasons that live inside them, not inside you. Their wounds, their limitations, their fear of intimacy, their emotional immaturity, their unhealed childhood stories, their inability to give what they demanded so effortlessly. Sometimes people walk away not because you lacked something, but because your presence demanded a depth they were not ready to touch. But your heart doesn't understand that yet. It only feels the absence, the sudden silence, the empty space where someone else's energy used to live. And in that vulnerable moment, every old wound you've ever carried resurfaces. Abandonment, fear of being alone, fear of being forgotten, fear of being impossible to love. Rejection is powerful because it doesn't arrive alone. It brings your past with it. And yet, Osho reminds us, if someone leaving can shake you, let it shake you awake. Because the pain you feel right now is not here to punish you. It's here to reveal you, to show where your illusions were, where your attachments lived, where your dependence grew unnoticed. This is why rejection hurts more than goodbye. Goodbye is the end of a connection. Rejection is the end of an illusion. And every time an illusion falls, a deeper truth becomes visible. A truth about what your heart deserves. A truth about what kind of love nourishes your spirit. A truth about where your self-worth really comes from. Stay with this. Feel it. Because topic 2 will dive deeper into what truly leaves when someone walks away and is not what you think. When someone walks away, the first instinct is to believe that you lost a person. But the truth, the deeper, quieter truth, is that you lost something far more subtle than their physical presence. You lost the idea you had of them. You lost the expectations you quietly built in the background of your mind. You lost the version of the future that was living inside your imagination, not inside reality. Osho used to say that people don't break your heart, they break your expectations, and nothing reveals this more clearly than the moment someone disappears from your life. Because if we're honest, Most of the pain is not about who they were, it's about who you thought they could become. It's not the relationship that ends, it's the fantasy of what the relationship might have been. You're not grieving the person, you're grieving the story, the late night conversations you imagined, the healing you hoped they would help you reach, the emotional intimacy you believed would happen eventually, the softness you were waiting for, the love you were trying to earn, even if you didn't admit it out loud. When they walked away, they didn't just leave a physical space empty. They left a psychological space that you had already decorated with meaning. And that is what hurts. The collapse of the inner home you built around them. But here is the spiritual pivot Osho wanted you to see. If something can be lost so easily, it was never truly yours. Sit with that. If their departure leaves you shattered, it only shows how much of your inner world you had handed over to someone who was never responsible for holding it. You didn't just lose a person, you lost the version of yourself who believed that your happiness depended on them. You lost the illusion that their presence was the source of your peace. You lost the habit of expecting love from where love was never stable. You lost the attachment that was draining your spirit while you called it connection. And yes, losing illusions hurts because illusions become comfortable. They become familiar. They become home, even when they are quietly suffocating you. But the universe has a brutal kindness. When a person leaves, it doesn't just take them away, it takes away everything that was not aligned with your truth, your false hopes, your emotional dependence, your borrowed dreams, your self sacrificing patterns, your willingness to shrink so they could stay. All of that walks away with them, and what remains is the part of you that was always yours, the part you abandoned while you were busy holding on to someone else. Their leaving is not just an ending, it is a clearing, a dismantling of everything that was preventing you from seeing who you are without them. A moment of spiritual emptying, painful, yes, but necessary, so that something more authentic can grow in the space they once occupied. You are not being punished. You are being reordered from the inside out. Because sometimes the only way to return to yourself is to lose the people you were losing yourself for. When someone walks out of your life, the disappearance is only the beginning. The real storm begins inside you, not outside. It is the ego that wakes up first. It whispers, "Why did this happen? What did I do wrong? What do they have that I don't? Why wasn't I enough?" Osho taught that the ego cannot tolerate not being chosen, and that is why rejection hurts so deeply. It isn't the loss itself that breaks you. It's the ego realizing it cannot control who stays, who leaves, or who loves you. And for the ego, losing control feels like dying. So it begins to create stories, dramatic, painful, exaggerated, anything to keep the illusion alive that this shouldn't have happened, even when spiritually it was exactly what needed to unfold. Watch how the ego works. If someone betrays you, the ego doesn't think, "I'm free now." It thinks, "I was replaced." If someone abandons you, the ego doesn't think, "Our cycle is complete." It thinks, "I wasn't worth staying for." If someone ignores you, the ego doesn't think, "Our energies no longer match." It thinks, "I don't matter." The ego personalizes everything. It turns incompatibility into personal failure. It turns the natural ending of a story into emotional tragedy. It turns another person's choice into a self-attack. But Osho reminds us, suffering doesn't come from loss. It comes from identification. You think you lost a person, but what the ego lost was an identity, the identity of being the chosen one, the identity of being the loved one, the identity of being the one who mattered. the identity that made you feel secure and validated. When the other person walks away, that false identity cracks, and the ego panics because it doesn't know who you are without their approval. That's why the ego becomes obsessed. It makes you reread old conversations. It makes you analyze their behavior. It forces you to look for explanations that would never heal anything, because the ego doesn't want truth. It wants the comfort of the old story. The ego turns loss into obsession. It turns absence into fantasy. It turns an ordinary person into a soulmate who got away. It turns the end of a chapter into a destiny destroyed. But all of this is illusion. The ego creates the pain and then uses the pain to justify itself. Meanwhile, something deeper is happening, something quieter, something the ego cannot control. While the mind is screaming, the soul is breathing, because the soul does not suffer from loss. The soul only releases what no longer aligns. The soul knows that nothing meant for you will ever leave. The soul knows that rejection is just redirection. The soul knows you were not abandoned. You were released from a path that was already complete. But the ego can't accept that. So it fights, it resists, it clings, it creates suffering where there should be freedom. Most people believe they are suffering because they love too much. But Osho would say, you are suffering because you were attached, and you confuse that attachment with love. Attachment is clever. It wears the costume of devotion. It imitates affection. It looks like commitment. It feels like intensity. But beneath all that softness, attachment is rooted in fear. Fear of losing, fear of being alone, fear of being unchosen, fear of facing your own emptiness. Attachment says, I need you to stay so I can feel safe. Love says, you are free. Attachment clings. Love allows. Attachment fears endings. Love accepts the natural flow of life. Attachment wants to possess the other. Love wants the other to expand. And the reason rejection hurts so violently is because attachment takes everything personally. When someone leaves, true love whispers, if your path is elsewhere, may you find peace. But attachment screams, how dare you leave? I gave you everything. You owe me your presence. Attachment always believes it deserves a reward. It thinks, because I stayed, you should stay. Because I sacrificed, you should sacrifice. Because I loved you, you should love me back. But Osho teaches that real love has no transactions. It asks for nothing. It demands nothing. It holds no one hostage. Love is a flowering. Attachment is a prison. And when someone walks away, that moment reveals exactly which one you were practicing. Because when love loses someone, it grieves. But it does not fall apart. Why? Because real love comes from fullness, not lack. But when attachment loses someone, it collapses. Because it wasn't the person you lost. It was the emotional scaffolding that held your illusions upright. With attachment, the mind says, without you, I am nothing. With love, the soul says, I was whole before you, and I will remain whole after you. Attachment makes the other person your identity. Love recognizes that your identity is rooted in consciousness itself. Attachment creates obsession. Love creates expansion. Attachment makes you hold on even when the relationship is decaying. Love makes you let go when holding on is no longer growth. And here is the deepest truth Osho exposes. Attachment is not about the other person. It is about the emptiness you were trying to fill. You weren't holding on to them. You were holding on to the version of yourself that only existed when they were around. That's why letting go feels like dying, because a part of you is dying, the false self you created for the relationship. But once that self dissolves, What remains is something truer, calmer, cleaner, the beginning of your real self. Most people think that when someone walks away, life is punishing them. But Osho says the opposite. When someone leaves your life, existence is protecting you from what your mind refuses to see. We suffer because we trust the attachment more than we trust existence. We hold on because we believe we know what is best for us. But consciousness sees what the ego cannot. Sometimes the person you're chasing is the very person blocking your growth. Sometimes the person you're crying for is the one who kept your soul asleep. Sometimes the relationship you're mourning was already destroying your inner peace long before it ended. And existence, in its silent wisdom, removes what your fear would never allow you to release, not as punishment, but as protection. Think of how many times in your life you begged for something that would have ruined you. Think of the people you prayed would stay, and today you thank every force in the universe that they left. That is spiritual protection. You don't lose people, you lose illusions. When someone walks away, they are not taking your destiny with them. They are taking only the version of you that lived through them. And the moment that version dies, your true self begins to breathe again. Letting go is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate sign of trust. Trust that your journey is guided. Trust that life is wiser than your fears. Trust that whoever leaves was never meant to walk with you into the person you are becoming. You see, people don't walk away because you are unworthy. They walk away because their chapter in your story is complete. And trying to drag someone into the next chapter only creates suffering. Osho says that life removes what blocks your expansion. Not gently, not politely, but with the necessary force to wake you up. That breakup you didn't want, that rejection that shattered you, that silence that confused you. These are not accidents. These are interventions. Existence whispers. You were shrinking yourself to keep this connection alive. You were abandoning your truth to be chosen. You were dimming your light so they wouldn't feel insecure. And so life does what you could not do. It separates you, not to hurt you, but to free you, to pull you out of emotional cages you didn't even realize you were trapped in, to return your power, your voice, your clarity, because letting go is not about losing someone. It is about returning to yourself. And once you understand that, you never see rejection the same way again. Rejection becomes redirection, loss becomes liberation, silence becomes an answer, and the ending becomes the doorway, a doorway into a life that aligns with the truth of who you really are. There is a moment in every heartbreak that feels impossible to understand. The moment when the person you trusted the most disappears exactly when your world is falling apart. It feels cruel. It feels personal. It feels like a deliberate wound. But Osho explains something profound. People do not leave because you needed them. They leave because your soul needed space. When you are going through chaos, when your identity is collapsing, when you are shedding an old version of yourself, your energy becomes incompatible with anyone who belongs to your past state of consciousness. Your pain is not pushing them away. Your transformation is, because the moment you begin to change, everything that cannot evolve with you begins to detach from you, naturally, silently, inevitably. You think, why would they walk away now, when I finally admitted I'm hurting? Why would they leave when I was trying so hard? Why disappear at the exact moment my heart needed support? The truth, their presence was part of the problem, not part of the healing. Your soul knows when a relationship has reached its limit. Your consciousness knows when you're outgrowing a connection. And existence knows when one more day with that person would keep you trapped in a cycle you were meant to break. So life intervenes, not gently, not comfortably, but with precision. You lose them at the exact moment you are forced to face yourself. Because if they stayed, you would look to them for comfort instead of looking inward for truth. If they stayed, you would continue depending on their presence instead of learning the depth of your own strength. If they stayed, your healing would be delayed because you would still be trying to save the relationship instead of saving yourself. This is why endings often happen during moments of vulnerability, because vulnerability exposes what the mind tries to hide. You were building your life around someone who wasn't capable of walking with you into your future. And the universe will not allow the wrong person to hold the pen when it's time to rewrite your story. You are not being punished, you are being redirected away from someone who could not meet your soul toward the version of yourself that can stand without them. Sometimes people leave because they cannot handle your depth. Sometimes they leave because your healing threatens their comfort. Sometimes they leave because your awakening forces them to confront their own shadows, and they are not ready. But most of all, they leave because their role in your life is complete, and no force on earth can keep someone in a chapter that their soul has already finished reading. When they walk away during your hardest moments, it is not abandonment, it is alignment. It is life carving space for the people who will stay, who will show up, who will match your frequency, your truth, your future. Painful? Yes. But purposeful. There is a moment, usually after the tears and the confusion, when something unexpected rises inside you. A strange lightness, a quiet breath, a soft space where the pain used to be. Most people ignore this moment. They rush back into fear, into overthinking, into wishing things had gone differently. But Osho teaches that when someone leaves your life, what actually leaves is the weight you were not meant to carry anymore. Every ending removes something you could not set down on your own. Maybe it was the constant anxiety of trying to be enough. Maybe it was the silent exhaustion of fixing, holding, convincing. Maybe it was the fear of losing them that never allowed you to rest inside yourself. People rarely realize this in the moment, but many relationships survive only because one person keeps sacrificing themselves to keep it alive. And life cannot allow that to continue indefinitely. So when the ending finally comes, whether gently or brutally, it is not just the person who walks away. It is the burden walking away with them. Osho says, when something leaves you, do not chase it. First, ask what part of yourself has just returned. Because when someone exits your life, what comes back is your peace, your intuition, your self-respect, your time, your emotional clarity, your inner silence, your freedom. Loss becomes liberation the moment you stop seeing it as rejection and start seeing it as a doorway into a life where you no longer beg for love, a doorway into a self that no longer depends on someone who couldn't truly see you, a doorway into a future that requires you to walk with both hands free. Think about it. How many times did you lower your voice just to keep the peace? How many times did you silence your needs so they wouldn't leave? How many times did you carry their chaos, hoping your love would be enough to heal it? And the moment they left, you called it abandonment, when in truth it was release. You didn't lose them. You lost the version of yourself that believed you couldn't live without them. You didn't lose love. You lost the illusion that love must be earned through suffering. You didn't lose your future. You lost the limitation that was blocking it. Every ending is a spiritual correction. It is life removing the people who cannot support the next evolution of your soul. And yes, it hurts. The ego fears emptiness. But the soul understands emptiness as space, space that will soon be filled with clarity, truth, and alignment. The hidden freedom inside every ending is that you are finally free to become who you were always meant to be before someone else's expectations shaped your identity. Your energy begins to return. Your intuition gets louder. Your heart becomes lighter. Your path becomes clearer. And slowly, quietly, you begin to realize there comes a moment, usually after the shock settles and the silence becomes familiar, when you realize something profound. You didn't just lose someone, you found yourself again. Letting go feels like a death at first, a death of identity, routine, comfort, and all the imagined futures you once held so tightly. But Osho reminds us that letting go is the highest form of intelligence because it means you finally trust life more than your fear. When someone leaves your life, the mind interprets it as failure. The ego screams, I wasn't enough. I should have fought harder. I should have held on. But the soul whispers something entirely different. You are being redirected. You are being protected. You are being prepared. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is refusing to abandon yourself one more time. You spent years carrying emotional weight that wasn't yours. You tolerated things your spirit was never meant to hold. You kept shrinking, adjusting, forgiving, and trying long after the connection stopped feeding your growth. And now, for the first time in a long time, you are being asked to choose yourself over the fear of being alone. This is the beginning of true inner freedom. When you let go, you stop arguing with reality. You stop trying to revive what was already emotionally dead. You stop resuscitating relationships that were running on the oxygen of your effort alone. Letting go is the moment you stop betraying your intuition, because deep down, you always felt the imbalance. You always sensed the distance. You always knew that the connection was demanding more from you than it was giving. But the heart doesn't like endings. The mind doesn't like uncertainty. And the ego doesn't like rejection. So you held on, not because it was love, but because it was familiar. The truth is painful but liberating. You were holding on to something that your soul had already outgrown. And when you finally loosen your grip, when you stop fighting for someone who never fought for you, a new energy enters your life. Peace, the kind you forgot existed, self-respect, the kind you haven't felt in years, space, the kind that makes breathing easier, clarity, the kind that sharpens your intuition, power, the kind that comes from reclaiming your own heart. This is why letting go is not losing. You are not losing love. You are losing fear. You are losing doubt. You are losing the version of yourself that believed suffering was the price of connection. Letting go is choosing your own evolution over someone else's indecision. It is the moment you stop chasing answers outside yourself and start listening to the wisdom rising from within. It is the moment you realize that love should never require you to abandon your own soul. And when this realization settles, an unexpected truth emerges. The people who walk away are not your loss. They are your filter. They leave so the right ones can arrive. There comes a point in your healing when you begin to understand that not every person who enters your life is meant to walk beside you forever. Some arrive to awaken you. Some arrive to challenge you. Some arrive to mirror your wounds. And some arrive only long enough to show you who you no longer are. According to Osho, life is always rearranging itself around your growth. And when a shift happens inside you, A shift inevitably happens around you. This is why some people vanish from your journey without warning. It is not betrayal, it is alignment. A person who is not meant for your future cannot survive your evolution. But while the ones who leave teach you about detachment, the ones who stay teach you something far more sacred: resonance. Because not everyone can stay with you as you rise. Not everyone can hold your depth. Not everyone can meet your growth without feeling threatened by it. Some people disappear the moment you stop shrinking for them. Some people walk away when your silence forces them to face themselves. Some people drift when your healing stops validating their chaos. But the ones who stay, they stay because they are not scared of your expansion. They stay because your evolution doesn't diminish them, because your truth does not intimidate them, because your boundaries do not offend them. Most importantly, they stay because they are rooted in their own wholeness. You don't have to beg for effort. You don't have to explain your worth. You don't have to chase clarity they refuse to give. You don't have to carry the relationship on your shoulders. Their presence feels natural, safe, balanced, simple. And here's the quiet truth that Osho always points to: when the right people stay, they don't stay because of attachment, they stay because of alignment. They stay because your energies move in the same direction. They stay because your paths support each other's evolution. They stay because your presence brings peace, not pressure. And when you look closely, you'll notice something. The ones who walk away always leave from a place of fear: fear of depth, fear of truth, fear of intimacy, fear of being seen, fear of being accountable. But the ones who stay, they stay from a place of consciousness, a place of maturity, a place of freedom. Losing the wrong people teaches you boundaries. Keeping the right people teaches you trust. The universe is never taking someone from your life without preparing to send someone aligned with your next level of consciousness. You lose attachment, you gain presence, you lose chaos, you gain clarity, you lose fear, you gain freedom. If you reach this point of the video, if something inside you felt understood, seen, or quietly shifted, then I want you to take a breath and honor that. It means your soul is ready. It means your consciousness is opening. It means this message was meant for you. So before you go, do something important for your own journey. Subscribe to the channel. Not for me, but for you. Because every week we dive deeper into healing, awareness, Osho's teachings, and the kind of inner transformation that your heart has been asking for. If this video touched you, even a little, leave a like so YouTube knows this message matters. And now, I want you to write something in the comments. Not for engagement, for grounding. Type, I receive. Write it if you felt clarity. Write it if you felt release. Write it if you felt something inside you wake up. Let it be your declaration that you are ready for a new chapter. And when you finish this video, don't stop here. The next video, already on your screen, goes even deeper into your healing, your freedom, and the quiet strength rising inside you. Click on it. Continue your journey. Your evolution is just beginning.